some lessons don't come from books. They come from bruises. They come from life.
There is no substitute for experience, period.
Some of the biggest successes were a byproduct of failure.
If you want to learn, build, and grow,
Why not learn from somebody who's already paid the price for success?
the wisdom is in the gray.
This is the Greybeard Show.
Greybeard Show. Learn,
Build.
grow.
And welcome to the show. You're listening to the Greybeard Show, and I happen to be called Greybeard. I'm going to be your host. I'm going to be your guide today. The Greybeard Show, this is a place where we strip away the noise, the nonsense, and the self-help fluff that sounds good but doesn't really work very well in the real world. And today, my friends, we're going to be talking about a very, very important subject, a very critical subject to most folks, and that is your relationships. Relationships matter. Your marriage, your friendships, your coworkers, your family, heck, maybe even your neighbor that decides he wants to mow his lawn at 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday. We may even talk about that. I'm going to actually give you 7 keys throughout today's show on how to improve your important relationships. So here's the truth. Relationships, okay, by far, single biggest influence on your happiness, your health, and your sanity. If they're going well, life feels lighter. If they're tense or problematic, well, everything feels heavier. But here's the catch. Most people let their relationships completely run on autopilot. We are in a digital, attention-grabbing age, and it's easy to drift. It's easy to ignore those important relationships in your life and kind of put them on autopilot. That's the problem. If you don't keep your hands on the wheel, you're going to end up relationally going into a ditch. So today, we're going to get intentional. I'm going to give you 7 keys, not theories, not abstract concepts, but 7 real-world keys that you can start even as early as this week. 7 keys to improving your relationships. Well, what do I know about it? Well, you know, I'm a guy that's married to his high school sweetheart. We've been together for 36 years, married 31. I've got 4 incredible sons. I've been an entrepreneur. I've worked in business. I've coached men and women. I've coached people through these types of situations. I've got a varied background, but I'm here to share knowledge and wisdom with you as a mentor, as a coach, as a person that tries to help others level up. I want to give you the keys to improving your relationship. So here's the 7 keys, kind of in a summary. Key number 1, stop trying to win every conversation. We're going to talk about that, okay? Key number 2, master the 5-second smile. You can hear my smile over the radio, can't you? 5-second smile. Practice the yes and mindset. That's key number 3. Become a serial appreciator. That's an important thing to do. Serial appreciation. Not the cereal that you eat, but the kind of appreciation that you show, obviously. Switch from judge to student. We'll talk about that. Give your attention like it's a rare gift. And lastly, lead with gratitude and close with love. Those are going to be the 7 keys that we talk about through today's show. Now, for those of you that are just joining me, can't stay with me long. If you'd like to get a copy of these 7 keys, if you'd like to explore mentorship or coaching with me because you've got challenges going on in your life, here's all you need to do is simply text my name, Greybeard, one word, Greybeard, Greybeard, to 84503, and my team will be in touch, and we'll see if we can't explore how we might be able to help you live a better life. But let's get into the 7 keys to improving your relationships. So key number 1, and I had to learn this myself the hard way. Unfortunately, relationships sacrificed in my own life because I did not learn this key quick enough. And key number 1 is to stop trying to win every conversation. I'm guilty. Guilty as charged. It's my natural inclination. I actually have postulated at previous points in the past that I should have become an attorney, because I like to argue. I don't shy away from conflict. I don't think that you can be impactful and make significant moves in this life without encountering a decent chunk of conflict. And I myself am not immune. And I used to lead with a heavy hand and used to try to just make sure everybody understood what my point was and why I was right. And unfortunately, that doesn't work very well in the real world. So let's be honest. Most people don't think that they're trying to win every conversation. Out there in radio land right now, you could be hearing my voice and you may be thinking to yourself, I'm not the type that's trying to win every conversation. But if I followed you around for a week with a little notepad, how often would I see or hear you trying to push to make your point, set the record straight, or to quote unquote correct someone, right? You ever watch two people argue over something so small that halfway through, neither one of them remembers what the fight was over or even about? That's not an argument. It's kind of a slow motion pillow fight with no winner and a lot of mess to actually clean up afterward. I've seen couples nearly call it quits over thermostat settings. I've seen best friends stop speaking because they couldn't agree on who had the best barbecue in town. And here's the kicker. In every one of those fights, okay, all those agreements, all those fights, even the ones as I reflect back on in my life, the winner didn't actually win anything worth having. They got the satisfaction of being right, potentially, and the loneliness of being right all the time. So what happens is if you're always arguing with people, if you're always trying to press upon them your viewpoint, you give them no space to have their own. You give them no ability to feel comfortable or safe in sharing with you. Now, this isn't about never having an opinion. It's about understanding the cost of making every one of your interactions a contest. If you make all of your interactions a contest where one person wins and one person loses, and you always want to be the winner, you're going to live a very, very lonely life. When you treat conversations like competitions, you stop being partners and you start being opponents. And hence the other person feels like they're on the opposite team. They'll defend themselves instead of trying to connect with you. Let me give you a real life example, okay? I worked with a guy named Rick. Smart guy, loved his wife, but really, they almost fought daily. When I asked him what they argued about, he said, everything. So I pressed him. Everything like politics, finances. He said, no, everything. Like whether the dog's bed should go in the corner or by the couch. I told him, Rick, that the dog doesn't care where the bed's at, and neither should you. Sometimes you've got to ask yourself, do I want to be right, or do I want to be connected with the person I'm sharing life with? Because in the long run, connection will give you the life you want. Being right will just give you a reputation for being an exhausting person to be around. So here's a little practical test for you. The next time you feel that urge to, quote unquote, correct someone, pause and ask yourself, is this really going to matter in 5 days? Is this really going to matter in 5 weeks? Is this really going to matter in 5 months? If it doesn't matter at some reasonable point in the near future, then why are you making a big deal out of it? Why is it so important that you be right? Might you be showing your own insecurity? Your own insecurity at not being valued. Always being right speaks to your own upbringing and insecurity over how you were being raised. So the next time you feel the urge to correct someone, pause, okay? Ask yourself if you really want to go down this path of winning this particular argument, right? And spoiler alert, it won't matter. If it doesn't matter in 5 minutes, 5 days, or 5 months, it won't matter ever. And you got to remember that. Okay. And yes, I know some of you are thinking, but Greybeard, what if they're really wrong? Well, you have to decide what matters more to you. Building the bridge or burning it down just to make the point. Do you want to stay connected? Do you want to have a healthy relationship, or do you always want to argue under the premise that you've always got to be right. So here's a little bit of a practical test for you. Here's a challenge for this week. Pick one conversation a day and consciously choose not to win it. I would suggest you pick this conversation with the person that you try to win it the most with. Maybe that's your children. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's a spouse. Okay? But here's the challenge. Pick one conversation, and in that conversation, choose not to win it. Agree, or at least allow the other person's perspective to stand without fixing it. And then notice what happens, not just to them, but to you as well. How does it change how you feel? Because the truth is, nobody's keeping score in the relationship except for you. And if your scoreboard is full of wins, but your connections are full of cracks, you really haven't won anything at all, have you? Key number 2 to improving your important life relationships, you got to master the 5-second smile. Now, I know some of you just rolled your eyes out there in Radio Land. A smile, Greybeard, that's your big relationship advice. What's next? Tell us to hold a hand, sing Kumbaya around a campfire? Is that what you're going to tell me next? Well, hang with me, because this one, my friend, is deceptively powerful. You got to hang with me on this one. You see, a genuine smile is very similar to like emotional WD-40, right? It loosens up the tension in a room faster than almost anything else that you can do. And I'm not talking about the sarcastic grin or the creepy, I'm smiling, but I might stab you look. Some of you have that. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. In fact, some of you out there in Radio Land driving in a car, someone just hit you because that's you. You're smiling, but you don't mean it. You're smiling, but you really want to, not that kind of a smile. I'm talking about a genuine, welcoming, nice, open smile. The real thing. The kind of smile that actually makes your eyes soften and your face say, I'm glad you're here. That kind of a smile. But here's why it works. When you smile, the people around you, thanks to these handy little things in our brains called mirror neurons, okay, the people around you, it makes them want to mirror that action. It makes you want to mirror it back. It makes them want to smile. And when they do, their own brain releases a little hit of dopamine and serotonin. Okay, so translation, you both start feeling better when you smile. And it's so simple. It takes fewer muscles to smile than it does to frown, right? I once watched 2 grown men almost come to blows in a grocery store parking lot over who got there first. Okay, tense, fists clenched. You know, they were about to go to blows. And then one of them, probably realizing he was going to make a stupid story later and probably didn't want to end up on the evening news, said to the other, man, were we about to just fight over a parking space? Both of them ended up laughing and one waved the other in. The smile just didn't save their afternoon. It saved them from a horrendous result of quickly being emotionally caught up in the moment. Okay, that 5-second smile, it can be magic. It can literally change the energy of a situation immediately. So here's the thing. A smile sends a message before your words even get there. It says, I'm not here to fight with you. I'm here to communicate with you. I'm here to fellowship with you. I'm here to share time with you and to connect with you. It disarms people faster than logic, evidence, or the best debate skills that you have ever would. It's like a secret weapon. Some of you, though, you haven't smiled on purpose in so long that your face muscles think that they're on a permanent vacation, I would assume. That's why it's called the 5-second smile drill. The next time you see your spouse, your kid, your coworker, before saying anything, just smile at them for like 5 seconds. Try to hold that smile. I know it's going to be weird. I know it's going to be awkward. I know it's going to be uncomfortable, but you cannot create change in your relationships without doing things different than the way that you've done them already. You have to change your life in small steps first in order to make big changes down the line. You got to begin small. And the smile, 5 seconds, that's the least effort, I promise you, that you can extend toward life change and get a meaningful and significant result out of it, okay? The first few times you do it, though, okay, It might look like you lost your mind. I promise you it might. But that's okay, because after a while, everyone else around you, they'll start leaning toward you instead of away from you. And you'll realize how many conversations start better when you lead with a smile than lead with an argument or a club or a heavy hand, okay? Life's heavy enough right now, okay? The news is depressing, okay? Work is stressful. We're all a little more on edge than we'd like to admit. A smile doesn't fix everything, but it can open the door for you to fix many things. Connection, trust, warmth. So here's the challenge, okay? Every single day this week, give someone in your life, give them a 5-second smile. I promise it's going to feel a little weird at first, but give it a week. I promise you'll see the walls come down that you didn't even know might have existed. So try it. Now, if this information, what I'm sharing with you, is hitting home, if it's resonating in you, if you've never explored working with a mentor or a coach, let me encourage you now, please look into it. I'd like to help if I can. And so here's what I'm going to give you. Everybody that responds by taking out their smartphone right now, okay? If you're listening to my show right now, if you take out your smartphone, go to your texting app and just key in 84503. Those 5-digit numbers, like that's my number. It's not my cell phone number, but it's like that number, right? So 84503. And then what I want you to do is just key in my moniker, my name, Greybeard. My given name is Shawn Davis, but I'm an expert at marketing. Nobody's going to remember some guy on the radio by the name of Shawn, but someone's going to remember some guy on the radio by the name of Greybeard, right? So text my name, Greybeard, to 84503. That lets us know you want to connect. That lets us know you want this resource. Everybody that reaches out, I'm going to give you this resource that we're talking about today. 7 keys to improving your valuable relationships in your life. 7 keys that you can take action on right now to improve those relationships in your life. And once again, all you got to do is text Greybeard to 84503. And if you do, my team will be in touch. We'll grab an email from you. We'll send you some additional resources if you're interested. And if you'd like to explore mentorship or coaching with me to solve and or help to solve some of the challenges that you've got in relationships in your life, I'd be glad to help. Now, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a mental health expert. I'm a real world guy that's lived 54 years of life, that's married to his high school sweetheart, that has 4 boys, and a lot of the challenges in business and life that you've had, but I've been conscious about trying to overcome them, fix them, address them. My personal philosophy is rooted in Kaizen. If you don't know what Kaizen is a Japanese word that represented by 2 kanji symbols, and it means continuous, ongoing improvement in all aspects of your life. I've been a disciplined pursuer of being a better version of myself throughout my whole life, and maybe that information, maybe those wisdom, maybe that learned lesson, maybe the gray hair I've got, maybe the gray beard, all of those are wisdom lessons. Maybe that can help you avoid some of the mistakes I've made in my life. And so if you'd like to reach out, text Greybeard to 84503. All right, getting back to the 7 keys to improving your relationships in your life, the valuable relationships. Let's talk about the key number 3, practice the yes and mindset. So if you've ever watched improv comedy, the first rule is never kill the scene. Okay, you never want to kill the scene, the comedy scene, right? In improv, they have a saying, yes and. So it means whatever your scene partner gives you, you have to accept it and you got to build on it. Okay, that's an important part of improv. You don't want to shut down the theme. You don't want to create a hard stop for anyone. You got to keep rolling with it to keep the scene alive. Now, here's the $1 million question. Why do we understand this principle in comedy, but we forget to completely use it in our relationships personally, in everyday life, right? And so think about how many conversations die in your life because someone plays the role of the human brake pedal, okay? For example, honey, we should take a weekend trip. Yeah, but we can't afford it. Honey, I was thinking about switching careers. Yeah, but that's risky. What if we moved to a smaller house? Yeah, but the kids would hate it. You see, do you hear the pattern? The pattern's obvious, and maybe this has happened to you in the past, right? But the pattern that's going through here is the yeah, but ends the conversation. It stops it from ever progressing forward. And you've probably dealt with that in your life before. The conversation killer, it's hard to develop connection. It's hard to get somebody to want to spend time with you if you're always the person bringing up the negative consequence of any decision or any idea that's postulated, right? It shuts down ideas. It shuts down dreams and even shuts down lighthearted banter. It says to the other person, your idea, your idea doesn't have any value, okay? Now, yes, and that little change, yes, and doesn't mean you have to agree to every idea that's expressed. It means you're willing to acknowledge it, to validate it, to explore it before you give it an axe. It's about building trust and connection by showing the other person that you're in the conversation with them, not against them, not just trying to shut it down, not trying to be the negative Nancy that just kills all the ideas that come about. Let me give you a real example, okay? So I worked with a couple, Mike and Teresa. Mike had big ideas, lots of them, okay? He's an idea guy. He's a dreamer. And I like dreamers, like some of the best ideas that have helped humanity move forward have come from dreamers, okay? But Teresa, she was practical. She would immediately tell him why his ideas didn't work. One night after hearing about yes and on this very conversation, like not this show, but in our mentorship, I told him yes and I was coaching Teresa. So one night Mike said, I think we should buy a camper and travel for a month. Instead of that's crazy or we can't afford it, Teresa said yes, and if we did, where would we go first? Mike lit up. He lit up. He smiled and he engaged and he lit up, and they talked for another 20, 30 minutes on where they would go, where they'd go first, where they'd go next, and what adventures that they would have across the country. Now, here's the thing. They still didn't buy a camper, but the conversation that followed brought them closer together. It allowed them to have a conversation where they weren't looking at their phones, where they weren't looking at the TV, where they weren't distracted. They just put their minds to work and they had a conversation about how much fun that would be. And even if that was the only moment, even if that was the only result, if that was the only thing that came out of it, that's beautiful compared to the yeah, but conversation. So here's the challenge, okay, for you. If you are a yeah, but person, if you tend to shut people down, for the next 7 days, whenever you hear or feel that urge to say to somebody, yeah, but, swap it for yes, and. See how it changes the tone of the conversation. You might be surprised how much more people open up to you, where the conversation goes, how long you talk. You're striving to connect. Conversation creates connection. Yeah, but shuts down conversation and then thus shuts down connection. Remember, in relationships, it's not about a debate opponent. You're not trying to find somebody to argue with. That's not the point. That's not the purpose. Nobody wants that. Think of yourself as a dance partner. Yes, and keeps the music playing. Yeah, but pulls the plug. You got to choose the music. Choose the music. Life's better with music. Point number 4, okay, keys to improving your valuable and important relationships in your life. Become a serial appreciator, okay? If you want to transform any relationship, spouse, kids, friends, coworkers, whatever that relationship is, okay? Here's the secret sauce. You got to become a serial appreciator. You got to appreciate the things that person, whoever you're striving to improve your relationship with, appreciate them genuinely. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, sure, just say nice things. Got it. Some of you out there might be thinking that. But here's the problem. Most people ration out how much appreciation they give, and it's free. You save appreciation for special occasions, a graduation, a marriage, an engagement, a job that you got. It's like some people feel like they can't show appreciation unless the event is big enough to deserve it. Meanwhile, the relationship starves for encouragement in the in-between. You ever notice how quickly people point out what's wrong, but how slowly they point out what's right that you're doing? Maybe you live with somebody that does this to you. They're very, very quick to show you the errors of your ways, but they don't necessarily appreciate all the other things that tend to go unnoticed in your life. And we wonder why people around us seem unmotivated, disconnected, or resentful because, think about it this way. Your teenager takes out the trash without being told. Does that ever happen to you? Has one of your children showed up and did the one thing that you harped on forever? They did the one thing. They showed up. They took out the trash without you asking, and then radio silence from you. Not an acknowledgement. No encouragement. No, hey, thanks for doing that. Hey, I saw you did that. I appreciate you doing that. Okay? Maybe a coworker nails a presentation. You don't circle back around and say, you know what, Sally, you know what, Jim, you nailed it. Good job. You must have prepared a long time for that. Man, it was impressive. Do you know how much weight that carries with someone? Do you know that might be the only piece of accolade or acknowledgement or support or encouragement that they've gotten in months? When you see people do well, tell them you did well. Your spouse folds your laundry. You act like the laundry fairy did it. Or the worst thing to do is just assume, well, that's your job. Oh, man. You don't want to say that. I'll tell you that much. Okay? As a happily married man of 31 years to my high school sweetheart, which is super rare. We've been together for 36 years, married for 31, 4 kids. Okay? We try to tackle everything together. So our agreement is she does the laundry, I'll fold it. Yeah, it takes more effort to fold the laundry than doing it, but I just don't like doing it. I don't like the rationing of the soap. I always get it wrong. I put too much, too little. My laundry doesn't smell right, whatever. It works for us. She does it, I fold it. Okay, it's always a partnership. It's nobody's quote unquote job unless we have an agreement. And even if then it's not a job, it's an agreement that we're sharing the load. Okay? That's how it works, right? So let me tell you a story. I knew a guy by the name of Ben who ran a small company. His team was good, but whole team morale was flat, okay? One day he decided to start ending every team meeting by calling out every person that did well that week. It was like a special acknowledgement that he was going to make. At first, it was a bit awkward because he hadn't done it before. Okay, people shuffled in their chairs and muttered, thanks and kind of moved on. But very quickly, only after about a month of doing this, okay, something happened. The team started looking for reasons to appreciate each other too. It was almost like it was infectious. The positivity, the show of appreciation, the acknowledgement of appreciation, it reminded people that that's courtesy, it's human connection, it's relationship, it's empowering, it's supportive, all those types of things. But after a month, it started to really change the culture. Productivity went up, turnover went down. Why? Because people want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be valued. They don't just want to be thought of as an automaton, like a robot. It's not just for work. This applies at home too. I've actually seen marriages start to heal simply because one person decided to actively notice the other's efforts and say something about it. Appreciation is fuel. Without it, relationships run on fumes. Now, I'm not talking, let me be very clear here, okay? I'm not talking about fake flattery. People can smell insecurity, insincerity. They can smell it a mile away, okay? I'm talking about specific, genuine, in the moment, real, authentic appreciation. Not, you're great. More like, I really appreciate how you took care of dinner tonight after my long day. I really needed that. Not, you're awesome, but instead like, thanks for listening to me vent without trying to fix it. Guys, let me just say this, okay? The men out there in radio land that hear me, this was a hard, it probably took me almost 20 years to learn this lesson. And I still need to be reminded of it personally, okay? And by the way, if you decide to, let me just put it to you this way, full disclosure. My greatest skill as a mentor or as a coach is problem solving. Okay. I've been 35 years as an entrepreneur. Okay. I haven't worked, quote unquote, for somebody for 35 years. I'm a 54-year-old individual. So effectively, since my teens, early 20s, I have not worked or been employed by somebody. I've been in business. I've been an entrepreneur. Okay. And, as an entrepreneur, you cannot be in business for 35 years, have any type of meaningful success without really being a good problem solver. Okay. So it's a skill that I've learned and developed. I tend to come at equations and problems from an outside box perspective. I tend to see things differently than a lot of other people do, which is an excellent skill set in terms of giving advice, coaching, and mentoring people. Okay. Let me just say, if you come to me, if you want to work with me, if you come to me with a problem, I'm going to help you solve it. That's what I do. Okay. But in relationships, in speaking with my wife, my behavior of being a problem solver, I used to always interject instead of just listening. Instead of just listening and hearing and sitting with it, I always tried to solve the problem, which is the opposite of what many times your partner in life wants you to do. They want you to hear them, just hear them, not solve it. And so that active listening, to just be present, to just hear the story, to hear the example, it takes a while, but I promise you, if you learn that lesson, it's an extremely valuable lesson to improving your relationship, especially with your spouse. Okay? Ask them this question. Okay? Is this an instance where you just want me to hear, or would you like my advice on how to help? Okay? That one question can save a marriage. I promise you. Okay, it really can, because it opens up an understanding that there are two possibilities. Is it just something that I need to air and give space to and tell you about my day or tell you about my problem, or do I want your active help in solving it? It really helps with your kids too, because as a father of 4 boys, I would always try to solve the problems, and sometimes they just wanted to flush it out so they could solve it themselves. Right? So it's an important lesson to learn. So here's the kicker. When you start speaking appreciation often, people don't just start valuing it. They don't just respond to it. They start giving it back. It becomes a cycle that builds trust and connection instead of resentment and distance. So here's an active challenge I want you to consider for this week. Every day, if this is a challenge for you, if it's a problem for you, every day, find 3 opportunities to specifically appreciate the people in your life. Say it out loud. Look for reasons to show appreciation. Text it if you have to, but let them hear it from you. It's got to be authentic. It's got to be genuine, but you got to do it. If you do it, okay, it'll help you too. Because remember, it's not just about them. You'll notice your own attitude starts to shift too. Because when you start looking for what's right instead of what's wrong, you stop acting like a critic and you start acting like a builder. Instead of criticizing, which tears people down, you start acting like a supporter, a builder. You're encouraging them. You're lifting them up. You're showing verbal appreciation for a job well done. Okay? Everybody needs that. Here's another point. Key number 5. Well, let me pivot here before I go to key number 5. There's no greater reward that I've felt personally than helping people be a better version of themselves. I think that there's I've had several conversations this week from people that have heard my show and reached out and stuff, and I think the older that you get, the more you start to wonder, what was your purpose in life? Why were you born at this time? Why were you born in this country? Why are you living in this city? What are you supposed to be doing? And I used to say to people, I envy the really extremely talented people out there. So if you take, for example, a world-renowned artist or a world-renowned musician, you hear somebody sing, you undeniably, what their talent is, what their gifting is, why they were put on this planet, because like their voice sounds like angelic music from heaven. Like I envy that. I envy the obviousness of that because I've struggled with it throughout my life. Okay. Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? I was in business 22 years as a financial advisor. The last 8 or 9 years of it was like Groundhog's Day. I felt dead inside. It was like repeat, repeat, repeat. There was no interest. There was no intrigue. It was just not something I enjoyed any longer. Is this my purpose? Am I supposed to be doing this? Some of you out there in Radioland may have hung your career ladder against the wrong wall, and you're only realizing this now. But here's my point of this. I feel much more connected to my purpose when I'm able to work with somebody to help them improve their business, improve their life, improve their relationships, improve their health. I mean, there's 7 key areas of life that I focus on helping people pay attention to and address to live a much more well-rounded life. See, I don't define success as how much money you make, because you could make $5 million a year, but if you lost your family, lost your wife, sacrificed relationships, have no faith, and you're obese to the point where you're a ticking time bomb from a heart attack perspective, I don't consider you successful. That's not my definition of success. So 7 key areas: faith, family, friends, fitness, fun, field, and finance. Okay? Those 7 key areas, if you're paying attention to how you're living in those key areas and you're endeavoring to improve your life in those key areas, I think anybody on this planet could say that you were a success. Because if you have health and you got your faith and you got friends and you got fun that happens and you got your finances taken care of and your family's okay, and what else could you ask for? So here's my call to action. If you're out there in Radio Land, if you want to talk to somebody that's real, if you want to work on some challenges that you've got going on, then reach out to us. Maybe we're a good fit. Here's how you do so. All you got to do is text my name, Greybeard, to 84503. My team will be in touch. We'll ask you a few questions about what's going on. We'll make available all of the resources that we've got, okay? And many of it's free of charge. My time's not free of charge. The most valuable thing I've got in my life is my time. It's the only thing I don't know how much I have, and the only thing I can't get more of, okay? So as a result of that, though, if you reach out and you'd like to connect, we'll send you these 7 keys to improving your important, relationships in your life. All you got to do is text Greybeard, Greybeard, to 84503. Text Greybeard to 84503 if you want to explore mentoring, coaching, or if you want this resource I'm going through today. All right, so let's get into key number 5. Excuse me, switching from judge to student. Most of us have like an inner judge, and some of you, your inner judge could give Judge Judy a run for her money. We size people up. We assume motives. We look at people's appearances. We hand out verdicts before the trial even starts, and we wonder why we're difficult to be around, or that people don't want to connect with us. Judgy people, nobody wants to be around. And here's the truth. You can't connect deeply with someone if you've already decided who they are and why they do what they do isn't for you. Judgment closes the book. It does. Curiosity opens the book. So think about it. When you're in judge mode, you're not listening to understand. You're listening to respond. You're mentally building your case, gathering your evidence, because you're a judge, right? You're reviewing the evidence. You're trying to make a decision, yes or no, yay or nay, right? You're taking everything in and preparing your closing argument. The problem, you can't do that and genuinely hear what someone's trying to tell you. You can't actively listen when you're preparing your response in your own mind because you want to be right and you want to be the judge. Now flip that. Imagine instead you approached every conversation like a student, like you're trying to learn, like you're trying to gain knowledge. Not a passive just take notes student, but an active learner, asking questions, digging in to understand, and being willing to have your mind changed. Let me give you a story. I once coached a dad who was constantly clashing with his teenage daughter. He'd judge her choices before she'd even explain them. The music she listened to, the friends she hung out with, the way she dressed. He was critical Carl. Let's just say that. He was a very critical person. One day I challenged him. I said, why don't you do this instead? If you're really earnest about wanting to improve this relationship, instead of telling her why she's wrong, why don't you spend the next week asking her why she likes what she likes? Ask her those questions. He came back a week later with tears in his eyes, and he says, I didn't realize how much I didn't know about my own daughter. And here's the beautiful part. She started asking him questions back. It created a conversation. It created connection. It created dialogue. The bridge got rebuilt because the judge took the day off and the student instead showed up. When you switch from judge to student, you tell the other person, your perspective matters to me. I want to understand it. It may be different than mine, but I want to understand it. That's powerful. Telling somebody that your perspective, your feelings, your decisions, they matter. It's powerful. It creates safety, and people open up when they feel safe. So here's a practical way that you can employ this. The next time you disagree with someone, instead of launching into your counterpoint, ask 3 genuine questions first. Just 3. Not sarcastic, not loaded questions, but just 3 simple questions. A question such as, help me understand what led you to that decision. Great question, right? Help me understand what led you to that decision. Next question, what's the part of this that matters the most to you? Great question. Last one. How do you see this playing out for you? You might still disagree at the end. That's fine. The win isn't in agreement. It's in understanding. It's in communication. It's in being heard. It's in valuing the relationship enough to put your own opinion, your own judgment aside and just listen. And let me tell you, understanding is the bridge to influence. When people feel understood, they're far more open to hearing your perspective. They will ask you. When they feel like you understand them, they'll ask you for your perspective. You might even be asked for your advice. But if they feel judged, the walls go up and nothing you say will get through. Personal lesson here, okay? I do not want to sound like a hypocrite. This was a hard one for me. One of my sons, for a period of probably 4 years, really, really difficult to understand a lot of the choices he was making. And I made the mistake of trying to right his choices, press upon him my advice. I mean, look at me. I've been in business for this many times. I've created this many companies. I've coached people. I've done this. I know the way of the world. I know how the world works. Son, you should just listen to me. What a bunch of crap that is. Not that I didn't have valuable advice to share, but me pressing. The pressing pushes. When you press people, when you press your opinion, when you press your viewpoint on them, it pushes them away. I literally pushed him away to the point where we had a falling out and didn't talk for almost 7 months. 100% my fault. 100%. So I'm a flawed man. I've made mistakes. I've really, really tried to learn from those mistakes. And that was a big one. Now I don't press. Now I just listen. Now I ask questions like, yeah, help me understand what led you to that decision. That's great. Like the more I share, encouraging, hey, listen, your life to live. You got to make the decisions that you feel are right for you. Okay? I think it's hard for younger people today. I think the world's a much more difficult place for them. I think many of you out there in radio land that might be my same age, 50s, 60s, look at younger people and you think there's something wrong with them, that they got their they just don't get it. It was hard for you too, but I genuinely think that growing up today in this age, the age of AI, can you imagine being somebody that went to college for 4 years, about to graduate this year, and the prospect of you getting a job because AI's replaced you is meek? Okay? Like there's no job. You're in debt. You went to college. You did the right thing. You studied, and now because AI is proliferating, your job prospects are virtually nil. There's some people out there that's happening to. The affordability of housing right now. Many people can't even afford a house. Well, that wasn't a challenge. I bought my first house in my early 20s. How many people can do that today? So just understand that life changes. It evolves. It's different. Today, for young people, it might be more difficult than what it was for you at that age. And you can't just smother it or smear it with, buckle up. You got to cowboy up. You got to put some Tiger Balm on that attitude of yours, because all you got to do is go out there and work harder. For some, that might be the truth. For others, may not. I just encourage you to think that things change, right? Get to key number 6. Give your attention like it's a rare gift. This is an important one. Now, here's something I've learned after decades of watching people try and fail to improve their relationships. Most of the time, the problem isn't the problem. The real issue is somebody stopped feeling seen. They stopped feeling heard. We live in a world of constant noise. The TV, the news, phones buzzing, work emails flying at all hours of the day. We're invaded. Our attention's being invaded by, social media and algorithms, and now AI, and attention has become the rarest currency that we have. And because it's rare, it's valuable. And when you give it to someone else, when you give it fully to someone else, it communicates you matter. Right now, you're the priority. I see you. You matter. But here's the sad truth. Most of us are so used to dividing our attention that we don't even realize that we're doing it. We divide our attention on our phones and in our communication. We're half paying attention because, you can do 5 things at once. You can be a sports game scrolling your phone. You can be driving scrolling your phone. It's like the attention-grabbing things that we've got, they overwhelm us. We nod while scrolling. We say, uh-huh, while typing. We listen with one ear while our brain is somewhere else entirely. This happened to me. I created a monster in business that I couldn't tame. I created a monster through radio, in financial services, a business that had me working 7 days a week for almost 5 years. I was a shell of myself. I succumbed to this. I would barely give my attention to everyone else because the weight of the world was on my shoulders. I was dealing with all of this money. Like back in the radio days, I was doing a radio show and I had so many shows and I had so much clients. I had about a $75,000 a month expense that I had to come up with. I had to generate. I had to be responsible for creating that expense to make everything work. And I was just a shell of myself. I couldn't give anybody any attention because I was too busy fixated on my own problems and this monster that I had created. I didn't have any attention for anyone. And that's why today, my boys will tell you that I missed out on a decent chunk of their adolescence. Not because I wasn't there physically. I was there. I was at every karate tournament. I was there at football games. I was there at the special events, but mentally, was I there? Was I really there, or was I thinking about the next business thing I had to deal with? I was physically present, but mentally absent. That's why I talked about a few weeks ago on the show, success can be seductive. Don't let that happen to you. Give your attention. Give it the real stuff. The real attention. Sit down with a friend. Sit down with a spouse. Sit down with one of your kids. Put your phone away. Please. Please. Put the damn phone away. Give them your full attention. Ask them questions. Seek connection. When everything's said and done, if you're lying on your deathbed, what does it all matter unless you've got connection? Unless you've got people that love you, that are going to miss you. None of it matters without that. The phone doesn't matter. The business doesn't matter. I've learned that lesson the hard way. It almost cost me everything. It really did. I'm glad it didn't. Not because I somehow figured it out soon enough, because I had a great spouse that slapped me upside the head with the 2x4 and said, you better check your crap. You're not who you used to be. I don't even recognize who you are anymore. Those tough conversations, that's what a guide or a mentor or a coach does. I will, you work with me, I'm going to challenge you on some of the things you say because you need to be challenged to create growth. You need to be challenged to change your life. Here's key number 7. I don't want to close out the show without sharing this. Key number 7, lead with gratitude, close with love. If you remember nothing else from this whole show, remember this. Gratitude is the oil that keeps every relationship running smoothly. Love is the glue that keeps it from falling apart. Gratitude is the oil that keeps every relationship running smoothly, and love is the glue that keeps it from falling apart. We overcomplicate relationships. We really do. We think it takes grand gestures, expensive gifts, epic vacations. The truth is, most people don't need you to be impressive. They just need you to be appreciative. They need your time. They need you to be real. They need you to connect. Let's start with gratitude. When you're consistently acknowledging the good in someone, even the small stuff, it changes the temperature of the relationship. Gratitude says, I notice you. I value you. I don't take you for granted. And here's the thing. When you lead with gratitude, people feel safer, lighter, more open. It's hard to stay defensive or resentful towards someone who regularly thanks you. But somewhere along the way, we stop saying it. Somewhere along the way, we think that they know that we're grateful, that they know we appreciate them. We think, why should I thank them for what they're supposed to do? In marriage, that's a warning sign. Don't go down that path. Okay? Here's why. Because if you don't, someone else will. And gratitude is like oxygen. People will go where they can breathe. If you're not showing appreciation, people will seek it out. And sometimes that leads to extramarital affairs. It leads to sticky business relationships. It leads to all sorts of carnage. Show appreciation. Give thanks. Now let's talk about love. I'm not just talking about romantic love. I'm talking about the steady, everyday love that says, I've got you. I'm for you. Love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice you make over and over, especially when the feeling isn't easy. One of the most powerful things you can do is close your interactions with love. End the phone call with I love you. Leave the house with I love you. Finish the argument, even if it's unresolved, with I love you. Why? Because it reminds both of you that the relationship is bigger than the disagreement. I once talked to a guy that lost his wife unexpectedly. He told me, the only thing that keeps me going is knowing that the last thing I said to her was, I love you. You don't always get to know when the last conversation will be, so why not make love? Why not make love the last word as often as you can? So here's the last challenge. For the next 7 days, start every important interaction with one expression of gratitude and end it with one expression of love. I promise you, it'll start change in your life, especially in those relationships. If this conversation, this monologue, this show out there in Radio Land, if you're listening, if this mattered to you, if it impacted you, if you want to connect with Greybeard to talk about some of the relationships you've got in your life that you'd like to improve, then by all means, reach out. All you got to do is take out your smartphone right now. If you go to your texting app, key in 84503, 5-digit number, 84503, key in that number, and all you've got to do is text Greybeard, 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 one word, to 84503, and my team will be in touch. We'll connect with you. We'll give you this resource, the 7 keys to improving your valuable relationships. If you're struggling with relationships, this will help. We'll send it to you. If you'd like to connect with me individually, explore coaching, group coaching, mentorship, etc., I'm a beast in business. I can help you with marketing. If you own a business, I can help you in all sorts of different ways. All you got to do is start. You got to take control. You got to start that process by simply taking out your smartphone right now, going to your texting app, keying in the 84503 number, and then typing in my name, Greybeard. Okay? That's all you got to do to connect with us. So once again, on your texting app, key in 84503, and then just text my name, Greybeard, Greybeard. And rest assured, my friends, my new friends out in Radio Land, I, Greybeard, will be back here same time, same place to talk more growth, change, and transformation. Greybeard out. This is The Greybeard Show.
The Greybeard Show. Learn.
Build.
Grow.